Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a couple people. Louisa?
Louisa, welcome back. We haven't seen you in a while.
Well, I know. I'm so lucky. We hired two awesome reporters, recent college grads who already have experience, one with the Chicago Tribune even. And so I've been sharing my beloved Steamship Authority beat, but let me tell you, I'm glad to be back today. Thank you. And I'm making a little recording.
Okay. Anyone else?
No, not Allison. Sorry, wrong button. Mr. Salzberg.
Yeah, good morning,
Hi, Rich.
Community Times. Hi, Madam Chair.
All right, we're all set. Thank you.
Okay, all right. I'm now going to make a statement concerning remote participation. Pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, and in line with the social distancing guidelines followed during the COVID-19 pandemic, board members are participating remotely in today's meeting because their physical attendances today would be unreasonably difficult. All board members are participating in the meeting by the Zoom video conferencing app, and all members will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of the members' remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken by the members today shall be by roll call vote. Okay. I'd like to start with item 1, and that's approval of the minutes. Do I have any discussion? So moved. I have a motion by Mr. Malcolm to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, may I have a roll call vote, please? Starting with
Malcolm, aye.
Randy, aye.
Randy, aye.
Jones,
Malcolm,
aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Okay, well, the minutes are approved. Item number 2 is the Port Council's report on their March 8th, 2022 meeting. Who's from the Port Council today?
I've got Mr. Cahill. I'll bring him over.
Okay, terrific.
Hey, good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning, John. How are you? Good morning, Mr.
I'm
Cahill.
well, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Nice to see you.
Thank you, thank you. Likewise. I know you guys have a long meeting, so I'll keep it brief. We had a nice, healthy conversation on the 8th, and 3 things of note is that 1, we approved the proposed 2023 winter and spring operating schedules. It was a unanimous vote. And the next item was discussed at length was a request for proposals to provide freight transportation service for the island of Martha's Vineyard. And we had a good, healthy conversation, and we also voted to move that forward on to you guys as members of the board. I will make one note as chair of the Port Council is that we have on the Port Council from Falmouth, our Port Council member, Rob Murnier, and he does have extensive experience in writing RFPs and RFIs. And I think it'd be wise to make sure that he is included in the process as you guys go forward, because I know there'll probably be a couple of revisions. And then last but not least is that we propose a unanimous vote, the revisions to the organizational chart.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Cahill. Mr. Cahill, I just wanted to ask, was Mr. Munier aware that you were going to make this suggestion for him so that we're all on board? Because I think that's a great idea.
I don't think he was aware I was going to say something today. I know I've talked to him personally about it. So I will pick up the phone and call him this morning.
Okay, so his drafting doesn't come out of nowhere. That'd be great.
Okay, will do.
Thank you so much. Are
Thank
there
you.
any questions of the board of Mr. Cahill? Okay, we can move on to item number 3, which is general manager's report.
All right, before we start here with the business summary, I'd ask, I'm up in my office, not in the barn with the rest of the people, so if Mr. Rosem can identify who's in the barn with him.
Sure.
Good morning, everyone. With me in the barn this morning, we have Mark Munson, Director of Marine Operations, Angela Campbell, Reservations Manager, Bill Cloutier, Project Manager, Terrence Keneally, our General Counsel, Monica Andre, our Executive Assistant, and Sean Driscoll, Director of Communications, and Kimberly McHugh, Director of Marketing.
Okay, welcome, everybody.
And so the first item would be the results of business operations for January. So if you don't mind, I'd ask Mark to present that for us.
And this will be in lieu of the treasurer's report today. So we have the results for January 2022. So for the month of January, we saw total passengers combined for both routes up just over 2,500 passengers at 2.6%. On the Vineyard route, we saw just over 2,500 passenger increase compared to last year. On the Nantucket route, was virtually flat, up 10 passengers. Here's a chart comparing last year and this year's passenger activity. Here's a chart showing the vehicle under 20 feet activity compared this year compared to last year. On the Vineyard route, we saw a decrease of just under 1,700 vehicles or 6.1%. On the Nantucket route, we saw a decrease of 89 vehicles of 1.9%. Both routes combined for the month of January were off 1,760 cars or 5.5%. And it's primarily decreases in the standard fare pickup trucks and automobiles. And again, here's a comparison graphically showing the difference between the 2 years. Okay, here we have the freight vehicles or trucks over 20 feet. Both routes combined were off 378 vehicles compared to last year, 6.5%. Pretty evenly split between Martha's Vineyard route down 200 trucks and the Nantucket route down 176 trucks. Cars parked were up 426 cars compared to last year at 14.5%. 322 cars on the Martha's Vineyard route and 104 cars on the Nantucket route.
Mr. Malkin might have a question. He raised his hand.
Jim, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. It's okay, Ms. Chair. Mark,
Yes, of course.
last year we saw increases in full fare vehicles and decreases in excursions. This January, we're seeing that reversed. Have we had an increase in the number of people registering their vehicles as excursions?
That I will have to get back to you on that answer, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, here's a trip summary report for the month of January comparing the 2 years. Of note, we had 0 mechanical cancellations this year. On the Vineyard route, for both routes combined, on the Vineyard route, we had 63 trips canceled for weather. On the Nantucket route, we had 27 trips canceled for weather and combined 90 trips. Last year, for the same month of January, we had 32 trips combined canceled for weather. Okay, operating revenue. Here's the financial snapshot for January. Operating revenue of $4,752,000 was lower than budget by just under $120,000. We had operating expenses of $8,685,000, which was lower than budget by $674,000. Combining all this together, we have net operating loss for the month of January of $4,067,000, which was lower than budget of $566,000. Here's a breakdown of the operating revenues for the month of January. We can see the automobile revenue and the freight revenue and the passenger revenue down compared to budget. Here's a breakdown of where all of our revenue for the month of January is generated from. Operating expenses, we saw maintenance is down $212,000. Most of that's timing issues related to the landside maintenance. Vessel operations were down $78,000. Fuel for the month of January was down $48,000 compared to budget. We don't expect that to continue for the near term. Here's a breakdown of where the maintenance expenses are coming from for the month of January. I mean, operating expenses.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, there's a problem that I'm not being able to see the other board members while the screen is on, so I didn't see that you needed to ask a question. I apologize, Mr. Jones. Sean, is there a way that I can see everybody?
You'd have to do that on your side, Ms. Tierney. You can set up the Zoom to still show the participants.
Hang on.
So at the bottom of the screen, you should be able to, there's a participants. So if you click on that,
Well, when
Okay,
when it's screen sharing, if you click
I'm
on
gonna get
the,
some, hang on, you guys, I'm gonna get some help.
Madam Chair, just a quick question for Mark.
Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, thank you.
While I'm doing
Thank
this.
you, Mark.
Yes, sir.
Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Mark? At this point of the game, is our hedge fund strike price now in effect?
Yes. So, yes, the pricing that we're paying right now is above our hedges for the month of January as well as February and March. We budgeted about 3.4 million gallons this year. We are hedged for 3,276,000 gallons for the year.
Okay, so we're finally getting some money back.
Yes, so we are getting the premiums back.
Thank you.
as a reminder though, those premiums that we're getting back are offsetting the additional cost that we're paying at the pump. So.
I get that.
do this.
Yeah, and real quickly, for the passengers in February, we're up about 15,700 or 17.3%. Year-to-date, passengers combined for both routes are up 18,200 or 9.7% compared to 2021. Quick snapshot of the vehicles for February. On the Vineyard route, we're up about 2,000 or 7.5%. Year-to-date, we're virtually flat at 0.4% on the Vineyard route. On the Nantucket route, we're up 287 total vehicles. Year-to-date, we're flat on Nantucket, up 22 vehicles. We saw a rebound in February compared to January. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any other questions anyone might have. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so the next item then is for the Woods Hole Terminal Reconstruction Project. And so while Bill gets in position, since the board last met, the marine contractor Jay Cashman's crew has been supporting the divers with crane support and fabricating the whales. The divers continue to do the underwater work, including welding the closure plates on the piles and installing the whales and tiebacks needed to reinforce it. And then they've started to build a cofferdam with concrete. And then while all that was happening, we had the insulation subcontractor was on site to insulate the potable water lines for the ferries. So I'll turn it over to Bill.
Good morning, everybody. What you're looking at here is the crew driving sheets for the cofferdam behind monopile 24. Next. This is a test of the backflow protector for the potable water that Bob was talking about. They completed the installation. You can next. This is just another view of the barge and the crew working on monopile 24. Next. It's an overhead view. You can see the two 42-inch piles behind the monopile 24. Monopile 24 is the one right in the center with the orange top on it. Next. This is a view of the south pier, which is essentially complete, ready to be used. Next. So far, the original contract was 43 million, change orders to date about 16 million. Change orders percentage is about 38%. Total contract is about 59 million. Water site estimate was 53.6. So we're about 6 million over our budget estimate. The good news is we will be finishing, Cashman will be finishing the work on the time and material work on monopile 24 this week. Next week, they will be setting an access platform on the pile, and the following week, the barge will be moving out of the slip, and they'll be turning it over to us for use. I'll answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Cloutier? Thank you, Bill.
Okay, thank you.
Right, and I should point out that thus far, we've sent out 189 community email updates regarding the projects. So, the other element of this is the shoreside work. So with regards to the shoreside elements of the project, the architects, the engineers and staff have been formulating plans on that portion of the project. Currently, we're looking at the pros and cons of overlapping some of the construction of the two buildings to shorten the timeline. After talking with the terminal and shoreside people, they agreed or felt that there's going to be obstacles regardless of how we do this in terms of staging, and to combine the two builds at the same time doesn't appear that it's going to be creating much more significant challenges than what they're going to be facing already. So we're looking at combining the builds, and by doing so, we're estimating that it may shorten the project by 12 to 18 months by getting both the utility building and the terminal building done at the same time. So they are working on putting together the site work package to be issued later and awarded this fall, so they can start some of the site work. It involves the utilities and stormwater modifications that need to be done. And they're also working on preparing the specifications for the building contracts with the plan to issue that and award that sometime later this fall for construction beginning after the first of the year. So, anyone have any questions?
Any questions, board members? Thank you, Bob.
Next is our website updates. So see if Sean can come around the table and
Morning, everybody.
Morning, Sean.
Okay, just to give a brief update on where we are on the website redesign and app development project. The discovery phase of the project has now concluded with ADK Group. The activities during that phase included mapping the current web platform and what the ideal state of the web platform is, investigating our technological ecosystem, looking for gaps and opportunities and pain points in the system and then the reservation process, and to begin creating a vision for the new website and the new experience. So right now, the phase we're in is called Focus Innovation, and that's when ADK Group is working with us to create the foundational design and user experience for the website and app, with rapid prototyping soon to follow. We're working on our plan for public engagement and including users and testing during this phase. And we have sent so far 2 editions of the new e-news on the project, and we're posting updates to the website every 2 weeks. And also in your packet was a monthly sprint report that summarized the sprint work that was done in February. And I expect to have a presentation updating the project's progress at next month's meetings. So happy to take any questions.
No questions? Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you.
And who's gonna tell us about the Ivanhoe?
Ask Mark Emerson to come up.
Morning, everyone. So we're in the middle of our conclusion of our, of our winter repair season. We'll start off with the INO. This is just prior to coming off the dock at Thames Shipyard. We've done an extensive recoatings of the vessel. Next. This is a picture where we're taking, this picture is taking the engine out of the INO at our repair facility in Fairhaven by our people, our Fairhaven workers. And we've already reloaded the new engine and gearboxes, and we're going to be doing our sea trials next week and for our on time ready for the start of the season. We did the new engine, we sent down to Florida, put it on a dynamometer and ran it at all different load levels for testing. So there's a high degree of certainty of getting back in service on time. Next. This is a picture of the Hamilton jets on the stern of the vessel. Next. And we did some extensive recoatings in the underwater pontoon area for life extension. Next. Dry dock highlights, extensive coating renewals. We've put a lot of effort into overhauling on the jet drives, and I think everyone in the public face side of it is we've changed out all the carpets in the 01, 02 levels. So I think that's a nice fresh look for the start of the season. Next. So a snapshot of it, the contract was $566,000. We had change orders, $125,500, which $84,000 was for work we found after disassembly of the jet drives. Those were unanticipated, so the contract value was $655,000. And that's the INO. Any questions on the INO? And all the tray tables are in place.
Thank you very much.
Next. Okay, so the Island Home. We have completed the dry dock sequence of the Island Home at Senesco Shipyard. She's presently in Fairhaven, getting ready for the start of the season. Get some couple of things with tweaking engines, etc. This is a picture of the stern quarter area at Senesco. All the coatings done, everything complete. Next. This is a picture of the opposite side showing the final right before we undocked, excuse me. Next. We put in as part of it new MES doors which are flush with the side shell. We had some, with the new fendering system, we had some issues last year, which we've got rid of that problem by recessing it flush into the vessel rather than proud. Next. So the highlights of the dry docks, bow and stern thruster overhauls, bow and stern door overhauls, marine evacuation system door modifications, extensive blast and coating for preservation and overhaul of the rudders. So the contract value was $1.365 million. We had $324,000 in credits, $288,000 in change orders. We're at 1.329 now. We still have some other costs coming in, but the overall project went well. That's it for the Island Home at Senesco. And last, we have the MV Nantucket is at Thames Shipyard. We're in the early stages of the project. This is a picture of her undocking, just getting ready for the freshwater wash of the vessel. Next. Just a picture of the stern profile. Next. We're taking all the shafts presently in New Jersey for overhaul on both sides. Next. So the highlights of the dry dock, bow and stern door overhauls, new fire detection system installation, blast and coating of the hull, propulsion shaft repairs, and overhaul of rudders. the financial picture right now, we're pretty early in the dry docking. We're at the contract value of 1.75 million. So all projects are going well, and we're ready for the start of the spring season. Any questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Ranning.
I just have more of a comment, really. I just want to thank Mr. Amundson and his team for handling these repairs in such a remarkably different fashion than how they were in the past. It's very refreshing. It's just wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rainey, for your comment, and I have to say, I couldn't agree more. I can see Mr. Malcolm shaking his head yes, too, so. You were, Mark, you were one of the nice benefits of the whole HMS study, so thank you.
Thank you, and my team, this isn't one person, this is support from upper management and the board to get the funds to spend this and our people in the field, so this is a team effort, but thank you very much.
And that's why you're such a great asset to us. Yes, Mr. Malcolm?
You're muted.
Oh, you're on mute, Mr. Malcolm. Can't hear you.
Sorry
There
about
we
that
go.
once again. Thank you. A question from Mark, in terms of the Oak Bluffs Pier, you were going to do some work. Where are we on the timeline on that?
Timeline is going well. We have one more, we have a fender we're going to be changing out. I think the timeline on that is early April. So we're well ahead of schedule, on schedule for opening Oak Bluffs.
Thank you very much.
Okay, terrific, thanks. Now, we have the proposed winter and spring operating schedule, and that's been unanimously approved, correct, by the Port Council?
I think that I unfortunately wasn't not able to attend a Port Council meeting, but I believe it was just taken under advisement. It was not voted, should not have been voted on. We have to advertise the schedules. So this is for informational purposes at this point, so.
Thank you for that clarification.
There was no vote, Madam Chair, but it was no real substantial questions or comments on the schedule either.
And thank you, Mark.
All right. So if I may, the proposed 2023 winter operating schedules for both routes were run from January 3rd to March 27th, which would start 2 days earlier and end 2 days earlier than the 2022 operating schedules. The proposed 2023 spring operating schedule will then run from March 28th to May 17th. It would start 2 days earlier and end 1 day later than the 2022 schedules. On the Martha's Vineyard route for the winter, the motor vessel Martha's Vineyard, the Island Home and Gatema will be assigned to the schedule. The motor vessel Nantucket will replace the Island Home during its repair period from January 9th to February 22nd. And then currently, and the difference being is that in 2022, the Island Home had its dry dock period. So it was replaced by the Nantucket and the Woods Hole during portions of that schedule. The schedule that we're proposing is essentially the same as 2022. No change in the trip times, the quantity, the trips, or changes in the vessel crewing and assigned vessels. And each of the boats that would be assigned on a triple crew basis, able to run up to 7 round trips a day. During the spring on the Vineyard schedule, we're proposing the same schedule and crewing assignments as we have for 2022. The one minor change that is going to be that the MV Martha's Vineyard is scheduled for its spruce up period beginning on May 15th. So from May 15th to May 17th, that 3-day period, the motor vessel Nantucket will take its place. On the Vineyard route, for the winter, on the Nantucket route, for the winter, the Nantucket schedule is essentially the same as it is for 2022. Same number of trips, quantity of trips and sailing times. The Eagle and the Gayhead will operate primarily during this schedule. However, from January 3rd to January 8th, while the Eagle is out and completing its repair period, the motor vessel Nantucket will take the place of the Eagle, and the motor vessel Woods Hole will take the place of the Gayhead. As I mentioned, for the schedule, the boats will be triple crewed and will be able to operate up to 3 round trips a day. The Gayhead will be scheduled to run 3 round trips Monday through Saturday, and the trips on Sunday will be optional based on demand. And then for the spring schedule on the Nantucket route, we're seeing no change in the number of trips, the trip assignments, or the vessels that are going to be assigned to that route. So the staff intends on advertising the schedule for public comment. So no vote is required at this point, but we'll be coming back at a future meeting for approval of the schedule. So unless anyone has any comments at this point.
Yes, Mr. Jeffrey?
Mr. Davis, was there any consideration given as options to not have the 5:30 a.m. Freight ferry? I mean, that's one of the biggest points of contention in Falmouth and the village of Woods Hole. And I know it's been the Falmouth Select Board's position that they oppose that portion of the scheduling. So and also if we have a successful proposal, if we move forward on the request for proposals for an alternative port, will that freight ferry still be necessary?
Yeah. So the 5:30 trip from Woods Hole is not scheduled during either the winter or the spring schedule. We only had that during the summer season. We don't have that starting. There is the freight boat does start on island at 5:30, so they don't arrive until after 6:15 in the morning. As for if we received any proposals, we'd have to see, what the plans would be in terms of, how soon they would be able to operate, and try to make it a consideration of how much of an impact it may have on our service. At this point, I'm comfortable with proposing this schedule as is, because we can always make adjustments afterwards. So.
Anything else, Mr. Jeffrey?
No, I'll be interested to seeing the public comment once this is posted.
Okay. Bob?
Yeah. So if there's no other questions regarding that, we'll go ahead and advertise those. The next item that we have, Mr. Jeffries referred to it, is regarding the development of a request for proposals to provide freight service for the island of Martha's Vineyard. I'd asked if Council Steve Sayers could be brought over, Sean.
Yep.
Oh, I hope we're gonna get to see him, are we? Or
He's muted at the very least. There we go.
Mr. Sayers,
Okay. It's a new laptop. Thank you. Great to see you again.
welcome back. We're all so excited to see you.
Thank you. It is good to be here.
Well, we're lucky to have you.
If you remember, last fall, all of you except for Mr. Jeffrey, who was not on the board at that time, voted to approve the 2022 summer and fall operating schedules for the Martha's Vineyard route. And with that vote, you also voted to issue a report which called for the Steamship Authority to issue a request for proposals for freight ferry service for Martha's Vineyard from an off-Cape port. The staff has drafted an RFP for your consideration and hopefully your approval today. We presented the original draft to the Long Range Vineyard Transportation Task Force last month and made revisions to it based upon their comments. And then we presented the revised draft to the Port Council last week and have made more revisions to it based upon their comments and suggestions. with those further revisions, the Port Council voted 4-0 to recommend it. And it appeared that Mr. Munier from Falmouth was also in favor of the RFP, but he had to leave the meeting before the vote took place. As drafted, the RFP is consistent with the feasibility study the staff had prepared in April of 2016. Importantly, it will not require the Steamship Authority to assume any financial risk in providing the service or paying for the service. We simply don't have the resources, the vessels, the personnel in order to do so. Our financial health and stability are essential to the island, and we do not believe that we should be jeopardizing it. Accordingly, all of the financial risk for the service will be borne by the private operator, who will also be required to develop and operate its own terminal facilities on the mainland, which have to be west of Cape Cod Canal and not in the town of Fairhaven. Although we will be willing to cooperate with the operator to obtain whatever permits and approvals it needs in order to develop the facility. Also consistent with our 2016 feasibility study, we will be willing to allow the private operator to use our Vineyard Haven terminal, subject to our own operational needs and schedules, to dock its vessel at least twice a day. We did this during the pilot project in 2000 and 2001, and it worked out then, so we believe we can make it work again under this RFP. We will also allow the private operators' customers to use our reservation systems, which we also did during the 2000 and 2001 pilot project. We feel this is an important aspect to ensure the successful operations of the service, because we anticipate that the private operators' customers will travel with the operator in one direction between New Bedford and Martha's Vineyard and travel with us in the other direction because of the waiting time of the operator's boat to get back to the vineyard after it leaves for New Bedford and back. Other than that, we want the service to be primarily a freight service. We don't believe either Martha's Vineyard or Falmouth would be in support of this RFP if we were proposing that it only carry cars. We also want the service to be able to carry hazardous cargo, particularly on early morning trips to the island. And we would also like the service to give priority to trash trucks traveling off island in the early morning, but only if the operator's mainland terminal is not located in New Bedford south of the Fairhaven Bridge, which is Route 6. At our November Long Range Vineyard Transportation Task Force meeting, Justice Polson, the relatively new executive director for the New Bedford Port Authority, stated that the city did not have any objections to trash being taken to a facility north of Route 6. After that, the touchstone word for me is flexibility in this RFP. We hope, with your approval, to issue the RFP later this week with a deadline to submit proposals not until August 2nd, several months away from now. Between now and then, we expect to receive a number of questions from potential operators, which will probably lead to revisions to the RFP to try to address those whatever concerns they have and be as receptive as possible to their ideas so that they will be able to provide a successful freight service from an off-Cape port. And we hope that that service will become an integral part of the transportation network for the island of Martha's Vineyard. The board, U5, will be responsible for evaluating all of the proposals that we receive. We have a timeline that will give the board 2 months in order to do that, to schedule the meeting to evaluate the proposals after the staff assists you in doing their due diligence with the proposals that are received, the proponents' credit history, customers' background, and also looking at whatever proposed revisions they have to the license agreement. You will be evaluating the proposals with a number of different criteria. And if I could share my screen, we'll see if we can do this. You'll be evaluating the proposals from all these criteria A through P, which include the proponent's qualifications, the terminal facilities to be used by the operators on Martha's Vineyard, the mainland terminal facilities to be used by the operator, the vessels to be used by the operator, greenhouse gas emission reductions. If by chance we get an operator who is proposing to use electric vessels, the operational model for the service, commencement of the services, the seasonal period for the services, the frequency and timing of trips, the number of years the operator is willing to commit to provide the services, the limitation or priority given to the carriage of freight vehicles, priority given to certain freight shippers on early morning trips, and the proponent's use of the SSA's reservation system, the availability of drive-on, drive-off services, and limitations on the proponent's fares for the services. And finally, the proposed license agreement revisions without the proposed compensation. All of those will be given ratings by you of whether it's unadvantageous, advantageous, or highly advantageous. And then you as a board, based upon public policy considerations and your evaluations, will give the proponents a consolidated rating. And that is balancing all of these factors. And there is no mathematical formula for doing that. That is based upon your judgment of the importance of these criteria. And then we hope to have the license agreement awarded by the end of October. And we will see what happens after that. Are there any questions? Mr. Malcolm.
Thank you, Mr. Sayers. Oh, am I? No, I'm not muted. Good. Question. I recall back in the time period when this was tried for a couple of years that there was some controversy about the reservation system. And I recall that there were some people who felt that it was a hindrance and some people who felt that using our system was a benefit. Can you fill me in on that a little bit? Because that's pretty much all I recall.
Well, my memory, and that was more than 20 years ago, is that while we offered our reservation system to be used by the private operator, apparently we may not have communicated that very well to our freight coordinators and our reservation clerks, so that our customers were not, the criticism is that our customers were not adequately advised of the availability of our reservation system for customers to go out of New Bedford. That's my memory, and I think we're going to be changing that. I think Mr. Rosem at the Port Council meeting, or no, at the task force meeting, mentioned that we would, the ideal thing is for us to include in our bulk reservation bulk freight reservations process, to include the private operators trips as options for customers to take. So hopefully that will be changed this time around.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones?
Yes, hi, Steve. A couple of concerns here. Number one, in reading the RFP, from cover to cover, you start off with saying on your cover sheet, basically, that the fact of using the reservation system and a couple of other issues here, which the authority themselves were not necessarily in favor of, but it goes through the entire document as though this is a foregone conclusion. And even getting into the licensing agreement of the fact that they will use the terminal, they will use the reservation systems. And in your report here, you just said that as a given, when all the way through you say that the board may not go along with this. Am I correct?
Well, what we say in the RFP is that our preference is for the private operator to use its own island terminal facilities and its own reservation system. From our operational point of view, that would be our preference. We would rather not have the added administrative burden of doing that. And we would have to work it out with the private operator, how we are going to allow the private operator to use our facilities and to use our reservation system. But because we do not want the failure of a private operator to find a facility on the island to stop this service from operating, we are saying nonetheless, we are willing to let a private operator use our facility if that's necessary for the private operator to succeed. Similarly, we're saying we are willing to allow the private operator to use our reservation system if that's necessary for the private operator to succeed. We do think, as a practical matter, that a private operator will want to do that. And so we're acknowledging that reality while we are not making it a highly advantageous at evaluation criterion in the RFP.
Yes, but has this board determined whether we want to do that or not? I was looking for an RFP that was a blank piece of paper. And make your proposals of what you need. We'll negotiate, whatever we need to negotiate, whether they use our terminal or not in the reservation system. That wouldn't it be more practical with an RFP saying specifically that we would entertain this? Or maybe the way you wrote it, do you think you did? I don't. I take it as though this is a decision the board should make whether we would or wouldn't. And I said on several occasions that I wanted a complete, RFP with whatever they propose that is similar in nature to our other licensees. They're not using our reservation systems, then C Street is using our facilities, which is all fine. And I have really not a lot of objections to using our port, but I do have concerns of that port being, oversubscribed. When the fact, if you get, vessels coming from Oak Bluffs on bad weather days or storm occurrences or whatever it might be, and then having that and the impact upon the community of having C Street and also another vessel. So I do have concerns over that, but I'm not going to, for myself, I'm not going to make that an issue, but just pointing it out. And this is the time to be talking about it, not after the fact. And I do have reservations about the reservation system. So no pun intended there, but that's a real carrot, and we don't offer that to any of our other competitor or other boats and licensees. I just don't like, you get into the license and you have, I think of section, and giving the option to use the reservation system and all the criteria of doing that, and then you go to, if you choose not to, a whole criteria and things of this nature. I don't know if we should be more positive of saying, yes, we will do this. And reading that document, it's questionable. I mean, it's questionable through several sections of it. So give me a little help, there.
Well, during, for the pilot project, when we issued the RFP for that, we did this in the same way. We gave the proponents the option of using our reservation system or not using our reservation system. And actually the license agreement that's attached to this RFP is based upon that draft license agreement that was in that RFP. I don't think we want to get into a situation where we require a proponent to use our reservation system. It may not want to. It may want to be completely independent of the Steamship Authority. On the other hand,
quite the opposite. I'm sorry.
That's prejudging it, Bob. I really do.
Yeah, and I don't think And I don't think we want to get into a situation of telling proponents that they cannot use our reservation system, because they may feel that they will not have a successful service without the ability to use our reservation and having their customers' trips somehow be coordinated with our trips. So I think we're leaving it up to the proponents to decide what they want to do. And if they want to use our reservation system, we've done it before, we've done it successfully. And we had some burdens, which hopefully they will compensate us for on that. That's subject to negotiation. That's also in the financial proposal, which we have to negotiate. And we are providing that type of non-monetary assistance to this service as part of our good faith and hoping that it succeeds.
Mr. Sayers? Mr.
Sayers?
Sayers?
Yes.
It seems to me that permitting any of the respondents to this RFP to use our reservation system would elicit a broader response. And, you know, hopefully that would encourage more applications, no?
That's true as well. Yes, we hope,
you know,
because some proponents may not feel that they will be successful without the use of our reservation system.
And I think in light of especially Woods Hole's overriding concern to defray some of the traffic from that port to a different port, you know, I would support that. It seems to me that there's a number of benefits. Not only will we get more applicants, but we're also saying to Woods Hole, look, this is our level of commitment. We're even willing to include this. So I'm highly supportive of that, and hopeful that you know, we can find some place in New Bedford from my port. You know, we have a fabulous port, and I'd like to see its involvement greater with the Steamship Authority. But I think that's a brilliant piece of the RFP. Mr. Jeffrey.
Yeah, I would just like to add in on my comment to yours is that I think that the way the RFP is written, it's given the board a lot of leeway in, once the proposals are in, to evaluate what's best under the Enabling Act to be a lifeline to the islands. Since there's no numerical, you know, value assigned, or each factor isn't weighted higher than the other, I think we're only going to benefit from being so broad to receive so many proposals. I do think, you know, having not only another port for freight will assist Woods Hole and its traffic issues, but that redundancy is going to greatly help the vineyard. I mean, we're, you know, one storm away from having, you know, our single lifeline to Martha's Vineyard to be cut off for several days. So I think that redundancy, especially given, you know, coastal climate change and severe weather, makes a lot of sense.
Are there any other comments or questions of Mr. Sayer?
May I also
Just really-
say, oh, sorry, Rob.
Hi, Steve. Good to see you. Just a comment about cancellations, because there will be some, weather related or otherwise. Is the use of the reservations system helpful in the event of a cancellation? In other words, you know, if a truck is stuck on the vineyard because the boat can't get back to get them, can they then go on to a steamship boat to get to Woods Hole and go back? Or is that not even, are we too soon for that, or what?
My sense, although I would defer to Bob Davis or Mark Rosen, who have more thing, is that by being able to use our reservation system, they would be presented with more available options on our boats in order to get back or forth if their service is canceled, and that would help them.
That's correct, but I think Mark has a.
Yeah, so the answer is, short answer, Rob, the answer is yes, we'd be able to just change it from the Port of New Bedford to Woods Hole, bill it out with the charge account and per card, and make any financial adjustments as possible. Same if they were traveling standby if one line was shorter than the other, we could do that as well. Technical points, the greater flexibility will cast a wider net.
The touchstone word flexibility.
Yes. And I heard Mr. Cahill's comment earlier in the meeting that he was going to ask that Mr. Munier be involved in any revisions to the RFP. Actually, our plan is that while the staff may make some revisions that are non-substantive, that are some minor improvements, any revisions to the RFP that would implicate public policy issues, we would bring back to the board for their approval, since hopefully the board will be approving this RFP today. So while the staff will make these administrative revisions in order to help competition, any public policy decisions would have to be approved if they are to be included in a revised RFP.
And this is, this requires a vote, correct, Mr. Davis?
Yes, we'd like support to move ahead and to issue the RFP.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Mr. Jeffrey, thank you very much, Mr. Jeffrey. And may I have a second?
I'll
Mr.
second.
Jones? Thank you, Mr. Jones. That's a great second. Thanks. May I have a roll call?
Can I just have one more comment before that goes?
Yes, Mr. Rainey. Yes, of course.
So nothing, before we vote on this, nothing prior to this precluded anybody from coming forward on their own and proposing a service, organically on their own, correct?
Right.
That is correct. We have actually, in fact, Tisbury Towing and Transportation, we had given them the feasibility study back in 2016 and asked them to get in contact with us, but they had not. At prior hearings on the approval of the summer and fall operating schedules for the Martha's Vineyard route, we were told there was someone who was interested in providing services. We could not identify that person. So we are under no legal obligation to do this pursuant to a request for proposals. The board on its own, without any competition, could award a license agreement to provide the service, but this is a far better public policy procedure in order to do so.
Mr. Malcolm? Did I see a hand, Mr. Malcolm?
And
yes, I guess my question is this, having listened to all of this, certainly having been supportive of doing something, is this about looking for a request for interest, not a request. What and how did it change?
I'm sorry, you broke up.
Mr. Malcolm, unfortunately, could you repeat your question because it was very broken up, please.
Any business?
It's still broken up, Mr. Malcolm.
Then
You may want to log on and log back on. It's a terrible connection.
I can speculate based upon what he said. I think he was asking, I'll wait till he comes back.
Hi.
Jim, are you back?
I think so. Am I back?
Oh, there we go. Much better. Yes.
Right. My question was that when we had proposed this as a board, I thought that we were looking for a request for interest, not a request for proposals. Am I wrong on that?
I don't know the answer to that. Does anyone know the answer?
I think the genesis of this, going back to the public hearings regarding the 2022 operating schedules, was that the staff had proposed seeking requests for proposals for off-Cape service.
Okay.
And this is almost a hybrid of an RFI versus an RFP, because we have left so many of the parameters flexible that we will be evaluating the proposals based upon whatever they come up with. An RFP on the other side of the spectrum would be much more limiting in what the proponents could offer. So hopefully this will shortcut the process instead of having an RFI and then maybe an RFP, and putting forth the parameters we want, which is we want it to be a freight service. We want all of these things. And other than that, please show us how it can succeed.
Okay, well, thank you. Then the only other thing I want to share with the board is, as I think some of you may know, there were discussions the Steamship Authority has had over the past year as a result of conversations that we on the Vineyard had with management to talk to our current licensees about expanded commuter service from non-Woods Hole ports to bring passengers, walk-on passengers and luggage to and from the Vineyard. And to date, we haven't received any, as far as I know, any additional interest from those people. So, general information.
All right, are we ready for a vote? May I have a motion? Oh, I think I got a motion and a second, didn't I?
Yes, you do.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
you did.
thank you. I apologize. Roll call vote, please.
Jones, aye.
Rainey, aye.
Are we doing this in alphabetical? How are we doing?
You know what, Jim, that's a really good idea that we do that from now on alphabetically because I think it will save time. But you haven't voted yet, so
Okay, Malcolm, I.
Jeffrey, aye.
Tierney, aye. So thank you very much, Mr. Sayer. We appreciate it. You will go on with this really important project, right?
And I look forward to seeing all of you over the from time to time over the next few months.
Going to Bedford.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Davis.
Yeah, so next, the staff is requesting the board to authorize us to adjust the common carriers unfulfilled reservations requests that was due to a late submission by adding the carrier to trips with available space and to prioritize the carrier to the top of the wait lists. During the processing of the 2022 summer bulk reservations, one of the larger common carriers that serves both islands submitted its bulk request late for both routes. The summer reservation requests were due on no later than September 28th, and in this case, we didn't receive them until nearly a month later. The common carrier typically operates two sizes of trucks. One size is under 35 feet or a two-space vehicle, and another category is under 60 feet, which ends up being a four-space vehicle. So as a result of the late submittal, and I should point out that common carriers, we have a priority in terms of the order that the bulks are processed. The U.S. Postal Service goes first, and we have hazardous and food, and common carriers is the next category. So as a result of this, these being late, they did receive their request for the Vineyard route, although not necessarily the times that they would have gotten had they gotten them in time. It's more on the Nantucket route, in which they did not receive their request. They received the appropriate number of reservations for its smaller vehicles, but did not receive its request for the larger vehicles. And that's based on the 2021 usage figures. So the reduction in the number of summer reservations for the Nantucket route has the potential to impact a significant number of individuals as well as businesses on the Nantucket route, because this carrier delivers to individual homes and businesses on almost a daily basis. So management is not recommending that we displace any of the existing reservations that were made, but instead management is proposing that the adding the carrier to trips with available space. There are some trips out there with available space. And if necessary, to prioritize them on the wait lists. Part of this is that we're looking at the allocations on the vessels and seeing opportunities that we can to kind of rebuild some of the spaces. It's a very labor intensive issue because you have to look at each individual trip and what is booked for that trip and making an assumption as to weight, length, and things like that goes into that. But we feel that there's going to be an opportunity there for us to be able to combine some of these spaces and to rebuild spaces. And by moving this common carrier up to the top of the wait list, once that's done, those spaces would be filled. So the recommendation that the staff is making is that we add the common carrier to trips that have existing available space on the Nantucket route. That we review the current allocations for opportunities to consolidate the spaces and to accommodate that shipper's vehicles. And then to review the shipper's existing reservations versus the deck availability to identify if there's any upsizing options that we have. And finally, to prioritize the shipper to the top of the wait list to adjust the carrier's unfulfilled reservation requests for this coming summer season. Again, had their request been submitted on time as a common carrier, not only would they have gotten, priority on some of these trip allocations already, but they also would have been first on the list for on the wait list. So we're just proposing at this point that we position them in that position now, not to displace anyone else that has existing reservations.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Raney?
As part of the, I'm in favor of this, but as part of this issue, is it possible to put in some kind of mechanism or control to prevent something like this happening again in the future?
Great
Yes.
suggestion.
Yeah, so we've had that same discussion here already, along with those discussions with the common carrier, to try to make it so that way we make this as seamless as possible. So what the common carrier intends on doing, that's up to them. But internally, our procedures are going to be that as we issue these, the time period for the bulks, that we right now we don't customarily issue any sort of notice that the days are dwindling for them to get it in. So we anticipate that starting a week out on a daily basis, we'd be sending out reminders to the bulk shippers that they request to do. And of course, once we receive those requests, we won't be bothering them again for the remainder of that time period, but on a daily basis for us to be going through and identifying, so that way. And then as we get closer to the deadline, any of those shippers that have it, to be reaching out to them on a phone calls to try to illustrate the importance of getting their any request in on a timely basis.
Any further discussion? May I have a motion, please? Mr. Malcolm?
So moved.
May I have a second? Okay. May I have a roll call vote? And I like Mr. Malcolm's suggestion that we do it alphabetically. So let's see if I remember my alphabet. Mr. Jeffrey?
Jeffrey, aye.
Jones?
Jones, aye.
Malcolm, aye.
Randy, aye.
And Tierney, aye.
Thank you very much. All right. So next item is proposed revisions to the organizational chart. So we're requesting that the members renew the authority's transition from a process-based approach to management as recommended by HMS Consulting in its report on comprehensive review of the authority's operations. And for a reminder and provide a quick update on this. So in December 2018, HMS presented their initial report following a 6-month review of the authority's operations, and that included 5 aspects of the organization: vessel operations, fleet maintenance, management structure, information technologies, and public communications. The initial report established 10 recommendations. One was to adopt a safety management system, and that's completed, and we're working towards a third-party certification on that right now. To adopt the quality management system, and again, that's been completed, and we're working on certification for that. To adopt the learning management system, and that was completed. To establish a mission statement and objectives, and that's been completed. To establish a strategic plan, we have an RFP that is currently under review, and we anticipate issuing that later this year. To increase the engineering resources, that's completed, but it's ongoing. To employ a health, safety, quality, and environmental management, an HSQE manager, and that's been completed. To employ a director of marine operations, and that's been completed with the hiring of with Mark Amundson, as well as a chief operating officer, and that's under review. That's for discussions today. Number 9 was to recruit external job applicants, which we've been doing and will continue to do on an ongoing basis. And then the final one was to develop an individual performance objectives, and that will follow the strategic planning. And that was December of 2018. So in February of 2019, HMS came back with the report on the addressing the public communications. They recommended developing a crisis communications plan, which has been completed. We're doing signage at all our terminals and develop a long-term plan, and elements of that has been completed, but we're continuing ongoing for that project. Employing a mobile application and reservation system, and as Sean reported earlier, that's under development. And then to develop a real-time text, SMS, emailing, messaging option. We've improved our existing system, and it'll be an ongoing process in that regard. So then in June of 2019, the board met on multiple occasions with HMS Consulting for some workshops to discuss the priorities of these items. A game plan had been established at that point, and we've been working off that game plan. However, in the March of 2020, COVID-19 pandemic hit, and so we were focusing more on the maintaining operations as opposed to implementing some of these projects. So at this point, nearly 2 years after the onset of COVID pandemic, and with the pandemic hopefully subsiding, we received requests to renew its efforts to analyze and develop the remainder of the recommendations, including the creation of a COO position. In its report, the COO's responsibility would be to provide leadership in the development and execution of operational strategies and plans, direct and manage the vessel operations, fleet maintenance, and terminal and parking operations, lead, support, and develop a high-performance operations team through assessing the team's capabilities and filling in the gaps, develop and oversee best practices for programs, policies, and procedures to reduce and eliminate risk, and to ensure compliance with all regulatory requirements. So the priority for the COO would be then to partner with the general manager and ultimately be responsible to ensure that the vessel and shoreside operations team collaborate to keep the operations and business on schedule, and communications to improve efficiencies. So in addition to a COO position, the staff has been looking at it and would be requesting that the members vote to consider creating the role of grants administrator, reporting directly to the treasurer comptroller. The responsibilities of this position would be responsible for the administration and financial management of grants and awards, to coordinate and manage the application process and application receipt and closeout of grants and awards, to ensure that grant money is being used in accordance with the terms of the grants, to maintain all the records regarding grants, track funding, expenditures, and prepare the reports, to review grant programs to ensure the adherence to federal and state guidelines, and to be responsible for filing of all FTA or NTD monthly and annual reporting. So the priority for the grants administrator would be to apply for state and federal grants, as well as to administer and manage them on an ongoing basis. And as we've seen late with the the current situation down in Washington, there's been opportunities that we've been trying to apply for grants and things like that, but to have someone that would be solely dedicated to that process, we feel would be of great value to the authority. So we've included a draft of a organizational chart, and the staff's recommendation is that the members vote to authorize the general manager to add the position of chief operating officer and grant administrator to the chart. If you do so, however, the authority's bylaws need to be changed, as the bylaws reflect that the general manager is the chief operating officer. So we're under section 7 of the bylaws. So we'd ask that the bylaws then be modified to change that from chief operating officer to the general manager shall be the chief executive officer of the authority. So with that, myself, Terrence and Janice, I think, are available as well for this discussion.
Yes, Mr. Jeffrey, please.
So I got my first comment is I'm glad to see that we're moving forward with developing a strategic plan. I think that's going to be very necessary for us as we make decisions moving forward in terms of capital investments in ferries and terminals. I also think that discussing and deciding upon chief operating officer for the authority is this is the right place to have that conversation, and not necessarily on Beacon Hill, because we're ultimately responsible for the authority. That being said, I'm all for a chief operating officer position as was recommended in the HMS report. My question on the potential management structure is, why is the chief operating officer not on the same level as the general counsel or the treasurer comptroller? It seems to me that the HMS report has that the chief operating officer would be at least on the same level or second to the general manager position.
Yeah, so an element of the organizational chart, actually, the proposal that we're having right now would be that it would be putting it at the same grade level as the treasurer and general counsel. Previously, the board had authorized staff to be going back and reviewing the grade structure for all of our positions, and we'll have to renew those efforts to look at this in order to. We have a number of grades in which it's a diverse range of jobs that fall in that range, and the qualifications and the requirements of each of those positions differs greatly. So we need to be looking at perhaps making some changes in the grade structure that we currently have. But as proposed in the staff summary, it actually ends up being the same grade. I think we kind of broke it out this way, so that way it illustrates that this position would be overseeing marine operations, shoreside operations, and engineering.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Ranney.
So first question, if we go forward with this, what does that do to the pending legislation that's out there? I mean, I don't want to bring the elephant into the room, but it seems to me it would make it moot, but I don't want to have something in the Enabling Act that mandates this position when, maybe at some point we don't need it anymore and then we have to change the Enabling Act again? I don't, I'm just curious.
Yeah, again, I would think that that would make the discussions regarding the legislation that unnecessary in that regard to add that to the Enabling Act. Interestingly, the Enabling Act does not mention any other staff level position in the Enabling Act. So if we're to do this internally, the hope would be that the legislature would see that this is something that's being addressed internally.
Mr. Jones.
Yes, I agree with that question, Rob. I think it's a good question because I initially have said on several occasions to Bob and whatever that I thought he needed at least an assistant general manager. The town of Barnstable has the manager, and we have an assistant, very qualified and stuff, but it allows the manager to assign tasks and duties to lighten his load and things. The COO has the exact same definition and job description really as what the general manager has. So now we're doing an executive general manager and stuff, which I agree, it puts them in another category. But there's a little bit of a conflict. Who's driving the bus? I mean, how do you, Bob would have to delegate the responsibilities to anybody under him so that the COO isn't saying one thing to staff and things and Bob another. I mean, so it's a little bit of a conflict. And I don't know, I think maybe it's a little bit of the verbiage and the responsibilities, but I like things that are clean cut and you can understand exactly who's responsible for what. And it just seems like there's a duplication in responsibilities with Bob at the top. So I don't know how the rest of you folks feel about it, but somehow I think it needs some clarification.
Mr. Malcolm?
Thank you, Chair. Couple things. As the board knows, and
Mr. Malcolm, your volume isn't high enough. Is there a way to increase it?
this is all I've got. Can you
Okay.
hear me now? Is better?
Yep.
You'll have to do it.
I'm sorry. I'll buy a new headset as soon as I get off of here. As the board knows, I brought this issue up twice to the board because I agree with what Mr. Jeffrey said. This is a function of the board. It's not a function, in my opinion, of the legislature to determine what we should do on this issue. And when I brought this up to the board took the position that at those points, the board didn't support going forward, but instead we've talked about developing a succession plan. I also, and I may have misinterpreted what our chair asked for at the last meeting, which was for management of the Steamship Authority to review the legislation and to come back with a recommendation to the board. So am I hearing, Bob, that the organization of the Steamship Authority is supportive of this role of a COO? And to Mr. Jones' comment, having worked with COOs before, in terms of driving the bus, the COO drives the bus, and the CEO or general manager will basically tell him the routes that he's going to cover. But operating the bus is the function of the COO. And the reason that I had proposed this a couple of times is I think that Bob does a tremendous job, is involved in so many things that he's putting in huge numbers of hours that I think could be better spent on looking, what the bus routes are going forward and less on the day-to-day operations. So with that, if the Steamship Authority management is saying this is what they feel is in the best interest of the authority, then that carries a lot of weight for me as a voting board member. And if otherwise, then I would like to hear that.
Yeah, so I think in terms of that, having this position and having them overseeing the, vessel terminal, shoreside operations, reservations, as we move forward, as Mr. Jeffries mentioned about the strategic plan, I think, there's ample amount of work on the table for all of us. And the issue, part of this has been that, we've been in 2020, we were in survival mode because of the pandemic and the impact that it had on our finances. And, as we've gone along it, some of these items, we've restarted, the HMS recommendations in terms of, the safety management system and the like. So this is just something that, now we're getting around to a little bit sooner than perhaps we would have under normal circumstances. But, to be able to have someone handle that piece of it, whether it's a COO, I was thinking it would perhaps be more of a, chief of staff type of position, but, the report itself had identified it as COO, although the discussions, I think, at the time with them was that, they weren't necessarily married to that title, but for the lack of anything else, we can, I'm okay with it being identified as that title. So.
Bob, could you, let me just ask a question, if I may, gentlemen, may I go? Does it make sense, Bob? And if it does make sense, does it need to be on next month's agenda to have a subcommittee of our board, a couple of board members and management to discuss the overall organizational chart as well as the steamship's position relative to this legislation? Taking into consideration what Mr. Malcolm said, I think that might make some sense. I don't know whether Terrence is going to tell me that needs to be on next month's meeting, but and I think it's an important consideration. I'd like to see management, legal, and a board participation in really combing through the HMS report, our organizational structure going forward, and what our response to the legislation could be, and our communication really with our legislatures. Mr. Jeffrey?
I'm just wondering if we have time to do that. I don't, unless that legislation is tabled, my understanding is it's open for comment now during the hearing period, and our next meeting may, the legislature could have already acted by that time. Whatever we do, we can change, but we can't, whatever changes the legislature makes to the Enabling Act, then our hands are tied.
So what's your suggestion?
I would suggest that we move forward on approving this today, because then we can refine it and tweak it at further meetings, and then it will, by calling it the chief operating officer position, we'll at least meet the nomenclature needs of Fernandez and Sears.
I had envisioned a vote on this today and forming this committee. That's what
I misunderstood that.
No, I probably didn't explain it well enough. So,
And I would be for that as well. I think this is kind of the critical work of the board.
Mr. Randy, please, Mr. Malcolm, I'll get to you in a minute. You, Mr. Randy?
I agree with both of your comments and Mr. Jeffrey's comments. I have another question that's a little bit tangential to this. But so the salaries and the financial side of this, we're looking at adding roughly 350,000 to the budget. Is that right?
That'd be correct with between salaries and benefits. Actually, that might be a little light, but
Okay, just making sure we're all aware of that.
Mr. Malcolm?
Question. If we were to call this position Chief of Staff, as Bob mentioned, rather than COO, does that require opening the legislation, Terrence? Because if it were possible to satisfy whatever the reason was behind the thrust of the legislation, without opening the legislation, I think that might be a very good thing to do.
Well, I think on that point.
Legislation is open.
Right, the legislation's open. I think you would have to confer with the folks who are behind the legislation as to whether that would satisfy their motivations. You know,
There was a quote that I read, unless it was misreported, that if the board were to do this, there would be no need for the legislation.
so if I may, so I think in terms of the title, I'm fine with the COO. I think the idea being is I feel that this is going to be a position that's going to have to work closely with, whoever the general manager ends up, is with myself or my whoever succeeds me. And I think that's the only reason why I was saying is kind of a chief of staff type of role. I think in terms of it, Mr. Jeffrey is correct. The comment period for this is quickly coming to a close. I think the written comments are required by tomorrow, close of business. If there's
Someone
any-
doing written comments on our behalf?
If the board so authorizes the staff, we could put something together, but
I would like that. What, is it the close of business tomorrow, did you say?
close of business tomorrow, yes.
Is there any way we can get Steve up and involved in that as well?
I'm sure I could reach out to him. The question would be is what would that comment be? And then if the comment is that, we've created this, COO position.
We've created this COO position and we've created this subcommittee.
Yeah. And to be looking at these elements that we feel it's unnecessary for them to include, be legislating that into our enabling legislation, which doesn't identify any other staff level positions. So.
Okay. Terrence?
yes.
Can we create a committee today or does that need to be?
Well, you can certainly create a committee. I guess I would.
No, what I'm envisioning is taking a vote on as set forth in our materials and adding a committee.
You can certainly add a committee, yes. I guess my question at this point is, what specifically is the task of the committee? In terms of what would you like to?
Yeah, I think that, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Davis.
Well, I think as part of this is that I think we'd be coming back with a more detailed job description for this position. I mean, we touched on some of the qualities that are going to be necessary in it, and I think we can bring that back. And then again, as I said, we need to be looking at the rest of it in terms of the grade structure and that. And so there may be some modifications there that we will need to recommend in terms of adjusting the grade structure for the existing positions. So and whether we're able to get that,
Well, I'm wondering if, you know, what I'd like to see is a better communication, especially given this legislation, between us and our legislators. So that future legislation isn't brought on so quickly and is more a collaborative process between our organization and the legislators who represent the contingencies we serve. That's, and maybe I'm talking two separate committees or something to that effect. You know, one to address the job descriptions, the salary adjustments, because it, you know, our salary adjustments is something that, you know, we're gonna have to look at. And then the concept that I have in terms of, you know, a more collaborative relationship, you know, between the legislature. This, you know, I'm not being as articulate as I would like, but I think you guys get the general idea. Bob, help me out here.
I think this has obviously been rushed. D-Day is tomorrow, I believe. I had a call, as I mentioned before, from Senator Sia. If I pronounced that correctly, I hope I did. And you know, telling me about the pending legislation, et cetera. I asked him several questions or whatever. I was really pleased that he reached out to me. The way it stands right now is I see that it's been before the committee and it's ready to move forward. I understand that Tristan Israel from the Vineyard made a plea to hold off and give the towns time to address this. He said the county commissioners and things didn't have, some didn't even know about it, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it would not hurt a bit that if we just requested that they give us a table list for the time being until the Steamship Authority has had a chance to digest it, and all of the towns. This affects the towns. It affects the towns because the towns, you know, have the prerogative to appoint people to the authority. And part of that legislation has to do with exactly that. So, and I don't know if they're going to bifurcate that or anything else, but I would say that that we should make that request. If they deny it, Bob said he could live with a COO, you know, and try to work around it and things. We got nothing to lose, and maybe, you know, we can get a better piece of legislation out of this. I would hope that the sponsors of this, you know, are cheering for the authority and not just looking to tear us apart. You know, and we've been somewhat under siege here with legislation the last few months. And this is a big piece of it and an important piece of us, you know, for enabling legislation of the authority. So my suggestion would to send them a letter and tell them, you know, our concerns, and we had one meeting to discuss this. It involves, you know, 5 different communities and 5 different governments within there. We should have the right to come back and ask for some time. So that would be my suggestion.
Yes, Mr. Jeffrey?
I'm not opposed to making that request, but I still think we need to act today. The fact that my understanding is that Mr. Fernandez, the sponsor of this legislation, one of the sponsors, who represents 3 of the board members are his constituents, didn't speak to any of us prior to filing this bill. I know he didn't speak to me. So I don't see at least one of the co-sponsors has been interested in what the board members have to say. If he's not reaching out to his constituents before proposing this legislation. So I'm in favor of moving forward and acting today so that the rest of that committee will see that the proposed legislation is moot or unnecessary.
I would agree with Mr. Jeffrey, but that doesn't mean that we can't do both. Adopt, because it seems to me that there's 2 prongs here. One is what's really going to affect the towns and the board members and and the length of their service and all the rest of it, and the other is the COO. So I think I think we've got to show the legislatures that we're taking the COO part of their proposals very, very, very seriously, and we're going to move forward with that now. So I think we should take a vote on that now. Is everybody else okay with that? Mr. Malcolm?
So I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, Mr. Malcolm, please do.
Okay. My motion would be,
Speak a little louder, only because I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I'm really sorry. I'm going to trash this computer at the end of this meeting, I think. My motion is as follows, that the board authorize the general manager to conduct a search, to create a job description and conduct a search for a COO or chief of staff position to, as well as a grant writer position, to serve the interests of the authority.
And I don't know that we want chief of staff. I think.
I was hoping that we could give Bob and/or the issue of opening up legislation some wiggle room, if that's helpful at all, so that maybe this can get done without reopening the legislation.
Terrence?
Yes. I think the motion's fine, if that's what Mr. Malkin wants to so move.
Okay.
We need a second.
Do I have a second? Let me just ask a question. Bob, do you want the chief of staff language in there, or do you think for the purposes of our legislators that are proposing this, we should just stick with the COO?
I envision that this position is, whether it's a COO or a chief of staff, that's the role that they would be playing, that they're going to be more involved in the day-to-day operations in terms of vessel operations, shoreside operations and the like. And that the rest of it, as we endeavor on with our strategic planning and, that would be more on the, a partnership with all the staff, of course, but it would be more on the general manager's shoulders than the rest of the staff.
Mr. Jeffrey?
Just point of clarification, Mr. Malkin, when you're in regards to your motion, would that include, I guess, authorizing the change in our bylaws to have the general manager under Section 7 become the CEO?
I was following on Bob's comment about chief of staff. I would prefer that, as this is a matter for the board to decide, which I think you said, Mr. Jeffrey, earlier, that the board make this motion and the board move forward with a job description and a job search appropriate, so on and so forth, without reopening the legislation. I get very nervous about reopening the legislation.
My question was more to my understanding is we would have to change, not the legislation, but our own bylaws that have been approved by the board, correct?
Correct.
It's to make the general manager then be CEO. If your motion includes that, I'm happy to second that motion.
That's correct.
Okay, then I second Mr. Malcolm's motion.
Have a roll call vote? Alphabetical,
Jeff.
please.
Just on the discussion basis, I'm just not comfortable with this yet. And I'm not comfortable because, this is a political, it's brought forth as a political question. And it ties in, I don't know if that, the legislation includes, term limit votes too. I don't know if that's two different pieces of the legislation. Maybe Terry, you could tell us that. But I'm just wondering, the towns, we are appointees. We're not body politic. And this whole thing to me is got a lot to do with politics. And the politics rests with the towns and the town managers and whatever. And not only that, Representative Fernandez supposedly is on record, things that I read that he's going to go and talk to the county commissioners. Now, if they go ahead and pass that, I mean, that conversation with the county commissioners is moot. Doesn't mean a thing. And so, why can't we just, set back a little bit, take a deep breath, not try to rush this thing through? If they don't listen to us, they don't listen to us. But the fact of the matter is, I think this needs more vetting than we who are sitting here as appointees and answering, in some cases, what is a political question that affects the towns, every town on the authority. So I still would like to just step back.
Mr.
Yes,
Jones, aren't we
Yeah.
just voting on the COO position today? That's all we're voting on, correct?
Well, it's a little confusing right now because we were voting on our own bylaws and things, and it morphed into the legislation.
But I think
And so
for
maybe we
purposes
should
of
just
a vote,
we should distinguish that so we all know what we're voting on.
Terrence, I would ask that you frame the motion.
As I wrote it down.
Excuse me?
I'm asking Terrence to reframe the motion.
Sure. As I wrote it down, Mr. Malkin moved to authorize the general manager to create a job description for a chief operating officer or a chief of staff position, as well as a grants administrative position to serve the authority's interest. And Mr. Jeffrey moved to amend that motion to add the amendment to the bylaws under section 7 to make the general manager chief executive officer of the authority, because what it says right now, the general manager is the chief operating officer of the authority.
So did I have a motion and a second?
You have a motion from Mr. Malkin and a second by Mr. Jeffrey, correct?
Okay, let's go ahead and have a vote. please.
I'm sorry, quick point of order just for Terrence. I just want to make sure we're following Robert's rules correctly, since we're talking about changing our bylaws too. And pardon me for my professional background being an attorney, so I'm a little bit more technical on this. I don't know, I didn't frame mine. I don't think I framed my, it would frame what I said as a motion. I was, or an amendment to Mr. Malcolm's motion. I was asking for clarification on Mr. Malcolm's motion if it included that change, if it included that. If it's not, that's fine, but then wouldn't we have to, under the Roberts rules, have a second on Mr. Malcolm's motion? Then I'd have to move to amend and have a second on the amendment. We vote on the amendment and then we vote on the first motion. Or if we just say that Mr. Malcolm clarified his motion for me, we can vote on the motion that Mr. Malcolm proposed that I seconded. Am I correct?
Let's have Mr. Malcolm clarify his motion and let's take a vote.
Mr. Malkin's motion includes any necessary changes in the bylaw to accomplish the intent of the motion.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
And just, I seconded that motion, and Jeffrey votes aye.
Mr. Jones?
You know, I think it's obviously gonna fly, you know, through. I don't like abstaining, but I'm not comfortable with this vote and the way, the process that we're using.
So you're gonna
However-
abstain, Mr. Jones?
I will pass and then join in the end.
Malkin, aye.
Randy, and I will volunteer for whatever subcommittee we come up with after this.
Tierney, aye. Mr. Jones?
Jones, aye.
Thank you. Okay. Treasurer controls report, we already had that. So we're gonna go through procurement.
So for procurement, the staff is requesting approval from the members to authorize the general manager to award contract number 07-2022. Supply and deliver spare parts for 2 Lufkin gearboxes, RHS 2100- first, serial number 118397 and 118398. To the lowest eligible and responsible bidder, which is Marine Systems, Inc. of Chesapeake, Virginia, for a total contract price of $241,421.98. The Steamship Authority intended to purchase Lufkin gearbox parts for the overhaul of the main engine reduction gears on the Sankaty as part of its preventative maintenance program. Initially, this was going to be part of the 2021 operating budget. Upon further inspection, additional parts were required, so we had to go out to bid on this. And so it's a little bit, we had initially expected this to be about $150,000. It's now coming in at $241,000 because of the additional parts. We did send the specifications out to 3 companies. 1 bid was received. At this time, they were asking that the authority members vote to authorize the general manager to award contract number 07-2022, supply and deliver spare parts for 2 Lufkin gearboxes to the lowest eligible responsible bidder, Marine Systems, Inc. of Chesapeake, Virginia, for a total contract price of $241,421.98.
Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Malkin,
Roll call vote, please.
Jeffrey, aye.
Malkin, aye. Oops, sorry.
Jones, aye.
Randy, aye.
Tierney, aye. Now,
That takes care of that.
is there any, Mr. Jones, back strike that. Mr. Davis, could you just do the COVID very briefly, because I'm concerned about time for
Yeah.
executive session.
You know, so very briefly, at this point, all employees that are working or as they come back from layoff are required to have their vaccination records and provide those to us on an ongoing basis. And we're thankful for all the employees who have done so, and to try to keep not only our crews safe, but also to keep our passengers safe. So.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I don't have any items that were not reasonably anticipated. So we go to public comment, please.
Mr. Salzberg?
Hi, good morning
Morning.
again. A couple questions, if I may. The first is, if anyone could offer an update on Mr. Sainsbury, if he is involved any more in the process in the tail end of implementing pieces of the HMS report. He's still being consulted. If he has any, hand in helping with the strategic plan. It doesn't appear as though he had any help with the CEO process right now, but perhaps previously he may have, because I know it had been brought up before. If anyone could answer that question.
Mr. Davis, would you answer that, please?
Yeah, so Mr. Sainsbury was with HMS Consulting Group. They have since dissolved. I believe he's gone out on his, created his own firm. We did extend the contract to Gloston as part of the team initially. We did, in terms of that, they were assisting us up until COVID occurred, and at that point we dissolved that relationship. So again, the strategic planning, as we start to look at that, we'll be considering whether there's any outside assistance needed in that evaluation. That's still to be determined.
Just, Mr. Davis, I think we've done a wonderful job implementing their recommendations so far. But I'm not sure that we have that need. I don't know if the rest of the board feels we do. But I think our team has done a wonderful job implementing the recommendations in a fairly quick, on a fairly quick timetable. Were there any other questions, Rich?
Yeah, just one more, if I may, referring to the RFP for freight. I was wondering if you could clarify if in some way, shape, or form, to the best of my understanding, the Steamship Authority enjoys some form of municipal liability protection because it's a quasi-state entity. Will that carrier be imbued with that protection as well, or will it be required to have a very specific type of insurance or bonding for liability for all sorts of things that could hopefully not happen, but could happen in the transportation of freight?
Yeah, so in the packet, and we can, if you haven't gotten it, we can forward it to you, but it does require that any proponent would have to maintain their own insurance and indemnification. They would not be covered under any of the authorities umbrellas.
Thank you, Mr. Salzberg, very much for your participation. Are there any other public comments?
Yes, Ms. Hofstetter.
Yes, good morning. Yes, again. So would it be safe to say that the common carrier that submitted its reservations late was the United Parcel Service?
It was a large common carrier.
With brown trucks, I'm guessing. All right, we'll do what we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louisa. I'd like to entertain at this point. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say that's all the public comment I saw.
All right, I would like to entertain a motion to go into an executive session to discuss and approve the minutes of the authorities meeting in executive session on February 15th of 2022, and to discuss the authority's strategy with regard to pending litigation, real estate development, collective bargaining negotiations, because a public discussion of these matters may have a detrimental effect on the authority's negotiating and bargaining positions. These matters include Captain Albert Brox versus the authority, a civil action number 22-10242 filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts, the potential sale and development of 31 Easy Street, Nantucket, the offer to purchase a portion of the authority's 220 Palmer Ave Falmouth property, the discussion of potential vessel acquisition, and the anticipated and ongoing negotiations with Teamsters Union Local 59. The public disclosure of any more information with respect to these matters would compromise the purpose for which the executive session is being called. At the conclusion of the executive session, we will not reconvene in public. Again, may I please have a motion?
If I may, Madam Chair, first.
Yes.
The item regarding a potential vessel acquisition is removed. It is not being discussed.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion? Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. May I have a second?
Jeffrey seconds.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Jeffrey, aye.
Jones, aye.
Malcolm, aye.
Randy, aye.
Tierney, aye. And I would just ask that we come back on like no later than 35, a couple of minutes, please.
Yeah. We can do that, 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
How many you got?